Today I'm going to talk to you about an incredibly powerful and important area of law. It's an area of law that deals with possession of guns, firearms, and weapons. It's an area of law that so many people are not familiar with and they misunderstand. And they wind up picking up cases that I believe after you listen to this segment in this show, you're going to find out that you can do some things to help yourself stay out of these situations. But let's talk today about guns. We know as citizens of the United States that you have a right to bear arms. And it's a constitutional right. Understanding that you cannot have a weapon unless you're licensed. In order to be licensed, you have to go and do a background review. You've got to go to a gun shop. You have to go through all the background checks. But I'm not going to disillusion you. You know as well as I do that there are guns all over the place. And that you don't have to go to a gun shop. You don't have to go through the background check. And you can pick up a gun, unfortunately, from places that aren't registered and aren't legally providing them to you. But if you make that decision to begin with, you've already put yourself in a bad place. With that being said, I want you to understand the parameters and the environment of what happens when you get picked up with a gun on your person, in your car, or on your property, and the consequences of what takes place. In the criminal justice system, they have a basic misdemeanor charge for someone who's never been convicted of a crime, someone that doesn't have a felony background. If you find yourself being contacted by the police officer, and it's a lawful contact, and sometimes it's just you being in a place where you fit the description of someone that may have been responsible for a crime, and they contact you, which is justified. They find out that in contacting you, they do a search that they believe is constitutional, and you've got a gun on you. You've got a gun in your pocket, you've got it in your waistband, you've got it in your jacket, you've got it in your backpack. Other situations exist when you're driving your vehicle. They pull you over for a traffic violation, or they pull you over for speeding, or they pull you over for being drunk in public, or driving under the influence, which I talked about in my last segment. Oftentimes they have the ability to make observations of the gun in their observations, in their plain view, or sometimes after an arrest they have a right to do a search incident arrest where they search your vehicle and they find weapons. Sometimes you are being investigated, or someone in your house is being investigated for a particular crime, and they get a search warrant to search your home. And in doing so, they find a gun in your drawer, in your dresser, someplace where they have access to it. And if it's not registered, then you can pick up a case for having a gun in your possession or your control. If someone's got a gun, they are putting themselves in a position for that gun to be used in unlawful ways. Even before you get to the unlawful areas of using a gun, they're putting themselves in a position where that gun can be accessible to people who don't know what they're doing with the gun. You don't have to think very hard to know of the many situations where children have been able to get a hold of guns in homes where they're not secured. As a prosecutor, in my first 15 years of practice, I saw too many cases where a child got a hold of somebody's gun, the mother, the father, and that child, not knowing that this gun is a real gun, that they'd fire that gun. Oftentimes killing themselves, killing their other friends, shooting an adult, incredibly maiming themselves, shooting off their hand, their fingers. How incredibly painful is that? And would that be for you? To tell yourself that you're protecting yourself by placing this gun in your home, in your car, or in your person, when in reality what often happens is that someone's going to get a hold of it and they're going to hurt themselves in a way that you will be not only criminally responsible but also civilly responsible. So if your gun gets into the hands of a child and they use that gun to hurt someone else, you will be criminally prosecuted as well as civilly sued for your negligence in having that gun there. So that's the area of just the morality and the consciousness of making a decision to have a gun. But if you've gotten beyond that and you say and you tell yourself you're going to have this gun, then what's going to happen when you get picked up or you get stopped or you find yourself being in a situation where you're going to be searched and you've got the gun on you? The law says that if you're in possession of a gun that's concealed, it's not fired and you're not using it, at the minimum you're looking at a misdemeanor gun possession. They call it Penal Code Section 12021A, being in possession of a firearm. Now, added to that count is also a second charge called Penal Code Section 12031A, which means that not only do you have a gun, but that gun is loaded. Because most people who carry a gun, they carry a loaded gun. Those are two misdemeanor charges, which if proven, and there's no constitutional unlawful detentions, or there are no obstacles that are preventing the district attorney and the law enforcement people to file charges on you, what are the penalties? What are the consequences? Well, if it's a misdemeanor, you're going to be placed on 3 years of court probation. You're going to be subject to what we call a four-way search clause, which means that an officer, knowing that you're in the system, knowing that you've been convicted of a misdemeanor gun possession, at any time that they want to, can search your person, your property, and your home. So those are the four areas: your person, your property, your automobile, which is number 3, and your home, which is number 4. You've now allowed law enforcement people to invade every area of your life, including your home, because you've made this decision about having this gun. The other penalties are you're going to pay a fine, and you're going to go to jail. A misdemeanor possession of a gun requires, in some counties, a minimum of 30 days, sometimes 60 days, oftentimes 90 days. And this applies across the board. You can be an 18-year-old kid who made a mistake, or you can be a 45-year-old grown man or grown woman with a family and a job, and because you've made a decision to carry a weapon and to keep it in your home, your house, your car, your purse, and you are stopped and you are found to be in possession of that weapon or in control of it, you're going to go to jail. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They may let you do weekend programs where you go to jail during the weekend. They may let you do sometimes the sheriff's work program where you go out and you work with the sheriff's department. You have to pick up trash, you do something with the sheriff's department. But there's going to be penalties that are going to take away your freedom and your liberty because of these decisions you made about carrying this weapon. And oftentimes, as I said, my experiences have been that people have told me that it's because they want to protect themselves. But that rarely happens. The theme of my programs and what I present to you will always be that I am not telling you what to do. I'm not going to lecture you. I'm providing you with information that hopefully you will make better decisions and use your better judgment. And in doing so, I'm giving you some of the consequences of what happens. I'll tell you a little bit about where I find a lot of people making the mistakes when it comes to weapons. When you're making a decision to have that weapon on your person, your property, or your home, you will find yourself oftentimes in an emotional situation where if not for that weapon being accessible to you, then you're not going to go to jail because you have nowhere or no place to go with that weapon because it's not there. But if it's there, you find yourselves in these emotional situations. I can remember a case a number of years ago when I was a young prosecutor from a young man who had everything going in his life. He had a good job, he had gone to school, he had worked hard, but he had a situation in his life where he believed that an ex-girlfriend's boyfriend, may be looking for him. It turns out that this was some 2 or 3 years ago, but he still kept this weapon in his car. And he was going to go through a regular smog check with his vehicle. And it turns out that he believed his vehicle was going to clear the smog check, but it turns out that it didn't. And that upset him. He felt that the people that were administering the smog check on the vehicle were cheating him and weren't being trustworthy or truthful. And they got into a big argument. And the people that were there got into a fight with him. A fight that made him so angry and so upset that that accessibility to that gun put him in a position where soon thereafter, by the grace of God, he did not pull the trigger, but the police officers surrounded him and they picked him up. He was prosecuted for assault with a deadly weapon and terrorist threats, which took him out of his job, which took him out of his family, which put him in prison, which put him in a place where he was going to have a difficult, if not impossible job, trying to get another job. Because people don't hire people who pick up gun cases who have an assault with a deadly weapon. You have an incredible, difficult time trying to maintain employment, but to pick up a case like that and have to do time on it is incredibly painful, and it just derails most of the ambitions that you might have. What I'm hoping that you take from this story is the knowledge and the wisdom that I'm not going to find myself in that position. You don't want to wait until you get into an argument. You don't want to wait until that emotion builds up before you make the decision. You want to prevent that choice to begin with. I can remember another story dealing with me myself. When I do these programs, sometimes I'm going to provide you with my own stories because, but for the grace of God, I can find myself in similar trouble. I've been a prosecutor before. I've been working in the criminal justice system. I'm a defense attorney now. But I still have to abide by these same guidelines. I still have to make a mental check of what I'm doing in order to make sure that I don't find myself in positions where I'm going to make decisions that might put me in jail. Years ago when I was in law school, I can remember putting my money out on my door of my apartment so that the newspaper guy can get paid. And one night I heard somebody at that door. Now, I was probably foolish for putting the money in an envelope taped on the door saying this is for the newspaper person. But somebody snatched that envelope off of my door. And I heard it, and I ran outside, and I chased that person. And I chased them because I felt they were taking away my money, taking away my property. They were violating my space. And I can remember telling myself after a while, I don't know if this person has a gun. I don't know if this person is going to do anything to me. And I know that I didn't have a gun. And knowing that I didn't have a gun made me stop. It made me walk back to my apartment. It made me go back into my apartment, into my safety, and it allowed me to live another day. Because what I did by knowing that I didn't have a gun and I had made that decision ahead of time was I prevented myself from being in a situation where, one, I may be killed, and two, I may have killed somebody, which meant that I would have been dead or in prison. But the decision was made a long time ago that I wasn't going to have a gun on my person in my apartment. And even now, I understand that I've got to still make those decisions where I don't put myself in a position where I'm going to be accessible to that gun. Because I don't want to deal with the penalties, I don't want to deal with the pain, and I don't want to deal with the fact that I might be responsible for hurting someone or myself being hurt. So this area of law requires you to make a check of yourself on a daily basis. To one, prevent yourself from being in situations where you can become too emotional, where you can make decisions that are bad, and two, preventing yourself from being in situations where you've got access to the gun. As a prosecutor, I tried too many cases where I know the people that were charged with murder made decisions to kill, not always because of their anger and their intent, but because they had this gun, and that gun empowered them. People that knew people, people that were living with people, people that were best friends, were responsible for killing their own friends because that gun was there. And because they believed they'd been betrayed, or they believed they'd been disrespected, or they believed they had to be able to show some type of bravado, they pulled the gun out and they used it. So what you have to understand is the gun and having it accessible to you puts you in a situation where you can make some incredibly bad decisions. The fines and the penalties and the search clauses are part of that as well. Understanding those things, it's important that you start making those decisions early on about not having that weapon. I have access to me a number of different pastors, churches, people who are willing to work with the type of difficult and painful situations that many people find themselves in when they're dealing with the criminal justice system and making decisions about their life and doing the right thing and trying to stay out of trouble, staying out of jail, how to stay out of jail, and how to put yourself in a place where you can make the proper decisions. Over the years working in the system, I understand how important it is to know what your rights are and to know whether or not you've been violated, whether or not your rights have been violated. What happens to you when you're arrested, how long you're supposed to be in jail before you're brought into court. Questions like what's an arraignment, what's a pre-trial, who's negotiating the case, how can it be resolved, what court you're going to be in front of, what judge you're going to be in front of. All of these things which you need to know and you need to understand so that you can make the best possible decisions. What happens when you get arrested? How are you going to make bail? How does bail play a role into whether or not you're going to be in custody? How do you come up with bail? What sources are going to be used? Everything you know and need to know about how to stay out of jail, but also things you need to know of what happens when you're arrested. What happens in court? How can this case be resolved? How can it be defended? What do these charges mean? What are the consequences? What are the penalties? And I'm here to provide you with this information about doing the things that are going to keep you out of jail, to keep you out of trouble, to keep you in a place where your mind and your thoughts are good and positive. I know that in a lot of things that we do in our lives, we do with the belief that you're doing the right thing and you're keeping a good conscience. And 90% of the time you're going to be fine. It's that 10% of the time or that 5% of the time when you find yourself vulnerable and you're making some decisions that are going to be painful. Those are the times where, hopefully, as we continue to work through this program, we talk about other topics. And we bring sometimes some guest speakers in to talk about these topics that can help you make these decisions ahead of time. What I want to do and what God has moved me to do in this program is to help prevent the situations that I find myself in as a criminal defense attorney, where I'm visiting people in jail and I'm talking to them about an 18-year-old kid having to spend the rest of his life, a 25-year-old man with a family and a job who's looking at spending 10 years in prison, a young lady who knows that everything she's done in life to be positive and to be strong has come into a crossroad because she's made a decision, has put herself in jeopardy. That means that she's picking up a case that might mean she may be incarcerated. I want to try to get the message out so that we can prevent those situations and that you won't have to go through those painful journeys. Sometimes I may even have somebody who's been in and out of the system to come and talk to you about what their pain has been like, to help encourage you, help to give you the information, to provide you the information that you're not going to find yourself in this situation. You're not going to be in that cell. You're not going to be in Santa Rita. You're not going to be in San Quentin. You're going to do those things that are going to keep you in a free, healthy state of mind. Once again, I am humbled by being available to provide this information with you. I want to always leave you with good and healthy thoughts, that I believe in the freedom of the mind, the freedom of the soul, and the balance of the body, so that you can do those things which will allow you to have a long, healthy, loving, and spiritual life, and to prevent you from being able to have to deal with this criminal justice system. And if I can provide information to you and help make it understandable, make it more simple, help navigate you through this particular area, then that would be my service, that would be my purpose. I thank you for watching, I thank you for listening, and hopefully you take this information, you will share it amongst your friends, your family, and help encourage people to take a look at the program, learn something about it, do all those things which will help you stay out of jail. I'm Darryl Stallworth. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to provide this information with you. God bless you.